Amanda, what do you think I did to this video? People will not hear all my hilarious jokes here.
Is it a YouTube video?
Yeah,
Is it your internet maybe?
I need to say it. I think so. Oh yeah, I heard something there a second.
Click on it, yeah.
Let me see.
His paper.
I'm coming back to this. We'll do.
Does your dentist say words to you that make you feel weird? Does your
Oh no, it's the Wicked Witch of dental insurance.
I said, do you take my coffee insurance? And they say, we. Hey, Densing friends, this is Paul, and I just want to alert you to this scam I was just involved in at this coffee shop. So I went up to pay for my coffee. I said, do you take my coffee insurance? And they say, we do not take coffee insurance at all. That's not even a thing. And I thought, that is super unfair, because as a dentist, my patients ask about insurance all the time. Even if we are totally out of network, they ask about insurance. When we were in network, they ask about insurance. So I don't understand these business models outside of the dental world that do not accept insurance. They just make you pay for stuff. So what I want to do with my amazing friend, Dr. Travis Campbell, the superhero of dental insurance, is help you be happier with dental insurance, whether you take 47 PPOs or you're totally out of network. Dr. Travis is flying to Philadelphia with his special insurance cape. He's going to wear it on the plane, and we are going to host a 2-day event that will help you with cape.
Welcome to Dental Nacho CEN TV. This is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman. I'm here with one of my BFFs in dentisting, Dr. Todd Fleischman. We are going to be talking about, will your dream of becoming a fee-for-service dentist turn into a nightmare? If you're watching with us here live, please feel free to ask questions in Zoom. We would love to answer them for you. If you're watching live, you can also get CE credits for watching in live. If you're watching on demand, there'll be self-study CE credits later. We're thrilled to be presenting, will your dream of becoming a fee-for-service dentist turn into a nightmare? One of the biggest factors in succeeding as a dentist is the words that you use every day. The words you say will influence the success and sanity of your day. So to start off, I want to share you a 3-minute video on words to say and words not to say in your dentisting office.
Does your dentist say words to you that make you feel weird, scared, and afraid? Well, it's not your dentist's fault, because they went to dental school, and in dental school, we are taught to talk really, really weird. You may have a hygienist as well. She's also taught to talk really, really weird. My name is Dr. Paul Goodman, Dr. Nacho, and I am helping dentists and hygienists everywhere not talk weird. So I've come up with 5 words you should not say in a dental office. 5 words that will make your patients feel scared, feel weird, feel afraid, and make you unlikable. So what are these 5 words? So we're going to go through, don't say this, say this. The first word is fail or failed. There's no reason we have to look at a patient who's had a bridge in place for 20 years and say, Millie, your bridge has failed. It's unlikable, it's mean, and it doesn't even make sense because cars don't last that long. So instead of failed, how about we say this? Hey, Millie, it's time to replace your bridge. So don't say fail, say replace. What's next? My personal favorite, the one that makes you feel so weird on the inside when you say it. If a tooth does not have a filling, we are taught to call those teeth virgins. Does that make you feel comfortable to hear the word virgin? Instead of saying virgin, how about saying tooth without a filling. This tooth doesn't have a filling, not that it's a virgin. The third thing is save. We often say to patients, we can't save this tooth. So dramatic, like it's Private Premolar Ryan and Tom Hanks is coming to save it. So instead of that, say, hey, the cavity here has gotten so deep, we cannot maintain this tooth. So to review, don't say fail, say replace. Don't say virgin, say tooth without a filling. Don't say save, say maintain. We have two more. Informed consent, so dramatic. I'm going to give you an informed consent for a root canal. Now, what could you call an informed consent? A heads up. I'm going to give you a heads up what can happen. So you can have an informed consent form where it says informed consent, but as you bring it to life for patients, say, I'll give you a heads up. Most of the time things go really, really well, but these are some things you should know about your procedure. I'm going to give you a heads up, whether it's a root canal, scaling and root planing a crown. And the final one is the P word. Do not say this P word. And that P word is policy. No one likes to hear that word. You don't like it, I don't like it, and our patients don't like it. So you may have a financial policy where everyone pays before treatment. That's cool, but instead of saying policy, why don't you call it protocol? So don't say policy, say protocol. So these are the 5 words you should not say to be less weird and more likable in the dental office. Don't say fail, say replaced. Don't say virgin, say tooth without a filling. Don't say save, say maintained. Don't say informed consent, say heads up. Don't say policy, say protocol. If I can help you in any way, just reach out to me at dentalnachos.com. It is my life's goal to help you talk less weird. Does your dentist...
Oh no, it's the Wicked Witch of dental insurance.
I'm gonna reduce all of your fees.
But it costs more to run a practice.
I don't care. Ha 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 ha.
So that is the wicked
Oh, no,
witch of dental insurance. So how do we battle the wicked witch of dental insurance? And the way to battle the wicked witch of dental insurance is with 2 systems. One, focusing on ROI, relationships, opportunities, and impact. Dr. Todd's going to be taking over this show soon, but relationships, no matter what kind of dental office you run, are so important. And what is the other way is to use words. Use words to be clear with your patients. Use words to inspire confidence in your patients. Use words to make things calm in your dentisting office, a place that's often chaotic. And when this goes right, and the only reason I am here, the only reason is because my dream of playing in the NBA failed. I wanted to play for the 76ers. That dream failed. So how do you win the game of dentisting basketball? This is how you win. You put your word skills, your mind skills, your clinical skills all together, including your heart skills, and stuff like this happens.
Hey, dentist friends, it's Paul, Dr. Nacho. I'm sitting with one of my favorite people and patients on earth. We did a full mouth implant case back in 2008 when I was only a 31-year-old dentist. Came in today to get it for us to look at it. It looks awesome. Life-changing impact of dental implants. I'm going to ask Rick, what has been the best part of having these teeth?
Oh, I could smile anytime I want, and I can eat anything I want, and they feel like my real teeth.
That's just so cool. And if someone was saying, my patients, they're not going to go for it because it's too expensive, was the financial investment for you worth it?
Oh, without a doubt, 100%. I would do it again if I had to.
Hey, dentist friends.
So a few more tips on words, because that is a success story. That is a smile story, but there's so many cry inside stories. You ever getting cry inside stories in your office, Todd?
All the time.
So a patient came to me and said, if the dentist didn't tell me this was going to be permanent, I never would have done this. You can raise your hand at home. Todd and I are Sesame Street kids. We acted things out at home. That's all we had, right? Say A at home. So when a patient says that to you, what do you say? This patient came to me as a new patient, emergency, had a bridge done 25 years ago and was angry. So reframing people's anger. How long do patients expect works to last? We'll go to Outcast and ask them. Forever, ever.
Forever, ever?
Like, yeah. Sorry, Miss Jackson, forever, ever. So you need to reframe and say things like, the stuff we do in your mouth, it's a lot like cars. You used it every day, just like your cars. It requires maintenance. It will need to be replaced at sometimes. Parts will need to be replaced. We eat 1,000 meals a year. So if something lasted 20 years, that's awesome. You got 20,000 years out of it. If you could just do this one thing for me, whether you're a dental student, whether you've been a dentist for 50 years, when you finish something today or tomorrow, filling, crown, partial that's going to stake, root canal, whatever it is, just say to the patient, you know, it's normal for this thing we did to last 4 to 10 years. It's normal for this thing that you did to last 4 to 10 years. So that if it breaks, the crown breaks 12 years from now, they'll remember that. Something only lasts a year, figure that exception out. Maybe you give a refund, maybe you give credit towards future treatment. But let's use words together that share with patients how to have more clarity and understand confusing things. And before I turn over to Todd, and we'll talk about his office before we get started. Do you accept my dental insurance? Is one of the most common questions I've been asked as a human being. Todd, have you ever been asked at a party if someone accepts your dental insurance?
100%.
Yeah, I've been asked at a party. I've been asked about other dentists, like we all hang out together. I'll be at Rittenhouse Square Park and someone might say, do you know if Dr. Smith takes MetLife? I go, I don't even know Dr. Smith. They think we're all working together. So these 6 sentences will help you. That's a great question. A lot of patients ask me about dental insurance. Dental insurance works a lot like a coupon. Also a coupon that has restrictions like blackout dates for airline miles. We will do the best job possible to maximize the benefit of your coupon. If you want to screenshot this, not just 2 handsome and funny guys on the screen, screenshot this, take a photo and share it with your team. There is a dentist in Dental Nachos, Todd, this is a true story, who said, I said this to a patient and they went from angry to saying yes to treatment. They went from angry, I didn't take spoiled guac PPO. Some patients just need some clarity to know what is next for them. So when they say, do you accept my dental insurance? We take it as an affront often, but don't take it that way. Just explain the way it works. And some people are going to get it, some people will not. So hopefully that will be something that helps you guys throughout your dental journey. Thanks. So that was just the appetizer, if you will, to the Dr. Todd Fleischman show. So I'm thrilled to have Dr. Todd in the studio. We did this a lot pre 2020. I don't know what happened 2020 to 2022. The video will show something happened then, but I'm not sure. We all just stay inside our homes for a while, but now we're back outside of our home, but you can still watch CAE on your couch. So it's a very convenient time. Zoom and the pandemic. I mean, actually, this is true. Have you used Zoom during the pandemic more than you've ever used in your whole life?
Yeah, of course.
For many things.
Never
Right?
even knew it existed.
Yeah.
prior to the pandemic.
So now we can deliver awesome learning like this to you. So during this course, Dr. Todd's going to talk about owning and managing a fee-for-service dental practice. It can be exciting and overwhelming at the same time. Offices must understand the psychology of patient care and use non-traditional skill sets to differentiate themselves and their team members from the typical dental experience. So Todd is going to talk about his experience as a fee-for-service dentist. I'm lucky enough to go to his practice and kindly annoy him almost weekly, and he's going to share with you what happens there. So welcome, Todd. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Great to be on here as always. Great to be sharing with the Nachos family. Always my favorite place to be. So let's get into it right away. We have about an hour and we'll kind of guide you through the philosophies and leading a fee-for-service practice.
Let's go to the bottom right there. Perfect.
So it starts with the front door to my practice. When patients roll up, they see that we have this phrase, the bottom of our sign that says dentistry that is all about you. So right off the bat, we hope they're going to recognize that this is going to be a different experience because it really does start from the very beginning. A little bit about me. I went to NYU undergrad, Temple Dental here in Philadelphia through 2004. UMD&J AEGD residency for a year. It's now Rutgers. Combo platter of 5 offices in 5 years. I did everything from HMO style, insurance-driven dentistry to what is now my own fee-for-service practice prior to buying it in 2010. I'm a huge proponent of continuing education, clearly. I also love to give it, but mostly I take a lot of it. And so I'm happy to share that information with the Nachos crew. I spent a lot of time at Spear and still do. I'm an ITI member, which is Straumann's sort of implant branch and continuing education branch, which is really high quality, evidence driven implant philosophy. And then the Coy Center in Seattle. Anyone who's listened to me before knows how I feel about that institute and John and how what they've done for me in my practice.
Before you go back to 1 second, I'm glad we're here together, Todd, and I'll probably frustrate you a little with this. Hold on, let me bring you back to this.
Go one more. Yeah.
So, and it's okay, whatever we get through. So I'm here to interject, not
Yeah.
interrupt. So I often say that running a dental practice is like running a circus where the animals don't try to eat you, just slowly annoy you to death. And the people inside running the circus is not just the practice owner, it's the team, it's the associates. Just talk for a minute about what did that AGD mean to you? There's so many awesome dental students saying, I got to get out and work. I got to get out and pay off my debt.
Yeah.
But you graduate from Temple, you had a father who was in industry like me,
Yep.
in present, and you said, I'm not going to go out and work. I'm going to do an AGD. What was
Yeah.
your why and what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honest about a couple of things. One, I was very fortunate that, my education was really paid for. And so I had the ability to make sort of value-driven decisions. That being said, I just personally didn't feel prepared to leave school and go into private practice. I recognized that I thought there was going to be a ton of value in having a year under my belt where you still had attendings and mentors working directly with you, where you don't feel like you're on an island by yourself and you're still figuring out how to like do real dentistry, right? Like you're figuring out how to work with a team, how to work with a front office, how to work with an assistant. And so I think there's incredible value in an extra year, especially if you don't have to pay for it. I mean, this was a residency that I got paid. It wasn't a lot, but there are those programs out there.
And you learn skills, especially now, whether you have debt or not, that you get to continue to do.
One more year is not going to make a
Extraction,
difference.
bone graft. And you've actually said this, and I know you have honed your office into fee-for-service restorative dentistry, but one of your missed opportunities might have been, you might have wanted to place implants.
Yeah, I would say this, like, I did my residency in 04 to 05. Implants were still not like a general dentistry thing back then. So I regret not being able to do these implants start to finish. Of course, I restore them all day long, but the surgical portion, now my associate Dr. Carr is doing, right? So it's fabulous. But ultimately, there are skill sets that you learn in these residencies, whether 1 year, 2 years, specialty programs that allow you to practice dentistry differently.
Yeah.
Better.
With confidence and do things that are needed, extraction, bone graft. And what Todd said, if you missed it, he has an associate, which I helped him get, an awesome resident that is fantastic from my program. She's doing complementary things to you.
Correct.
So if your associate was only doing what you did, they wouldn't have enough patients.
Correct.
So I just wanted us to pause there as practice owners and share. Please look into the pros and cons and risks and benefits of a general practice residency or AGD. The world of dentistry is not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Careers long.
And I would just say, I'm gonna just add that like, in these residencies, you're gonna learn higher level procedures, which allow you to make your money back faster.
Yes.
Like what you don't realize is you don't know what you don't know. And when you start to do comprehensive dentistry, you do higher bills.
Well, you met Dr. Marcus Cowan, and he extracts wisdom
What a
teeth.
fabulous
So
guy.
he can go and extract wisdom teeth for people and have $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 days.
It's amazing.
But he wouldn't have been able to do that without that training. So I know there's an urge to rush out into the real world,
Don't do it.
but it's gonna be here. And
Especially if you're young,
if you ask
it
dentists,
doesn't matter.
do they regret doing their AGD and GPR? They usually look at it as one of their favorite years of their dental life. It's the transition
It's
between
such a
that
nice
difficult
year.
dental school and then we're well. Thanks for sharing, Todd. Let's
Of
keep going.
course, yeah, pleasure. So on the left-hand side of your screen is the Koi Center room, where 35 of us sit in a room and are taught by John, typically for 10 hours a day, 5 days in a row, which is wild. On the right is the Spear Seminar Room, which holds about 250 people. And the lectures are awesome. So I'd highly recommend, and feel free to reach out if you want to know my path a little bit more specifically. Objectives of our lecture today: know that it starts with your team and that they are your greatest asset. Learn to develop verbal and clinical skills while understanding the psychology necessary to clearly communicate with your patients. I know plenty of dentists who are excellent dentists, but not great talkers. And so they struggle more. I know plenty of dentists who are not great dentists, but are fabulous talkers, and they're wildly successful. So we need to try and find a happy medium, in my opinion. Invest in relationship-based dentistry and relationship-based ownership for value-driven results. And I will explain that further. Disclosure, I have none. There are no sponsorship affiliations. I'm always interested, but certainly it's not happening at this point. And this information can be applied to all dental practice styles. That is important to hear, whether you're fee-for-service, PPO, DMO, none of that matters to me. If you want to provide service and comprehensive care to your patients, you absolutely can. Your margins are going to be different. That's why we encourage patients to get out of network, so we can earn real livings for the comprehensive nature of what we do. But that being said, there are no limitations. So look at this presentation as I can implement some, little, none, all of this information. This presentation is a retrospective of my fee-for-service journey and is, as I like to say, guidance, not gospel. It's just guidance. I'm helping you. I'm not telling you the way to do things. This is just the way we've been doing it. And there's no question that the process remains fluid. We have a statement of philosophy. I would highly recommend, if you're going to practice in the fee-for-service style, that everyone understands what you're trying to do. You have to have a mission statement. That's what this is. And so quickly, we at Todd A. Fleischman, DMD and Associates, and we read this every month at our monthly meeting, challenge ourselves to achieve the highest level of comprehensive dental health for our patients and each other. We meet our goals through shared responsibilities, mutual respect, pride in our workmanship, and ownership of our service. As team members, we focus on patient-centered approach to dental care, further contributing to personal growth through continuing education and positive development. We are committed to providing an honest and comfortable environment for those who choose to entrust us with their dental well-being. If you're reading this to your team before a meeting, they're going to understand what you're trying to achieve. Get your team aligned. Mission and philosophy statements allow for that. It sounds basic, but it makes an absolute difference. Your team is looking for a leader. I was not very good at that early in my career. Paul and I have done this for many years. And I'm certainly better at it now. I'm still not an expert, but your team is definitely looking for a leader, because ultimately, this is our statement of philosophy in the practice. You will never walk alone. This is Anfield, Liverpool's stadium in Liverpool Football Club Stadium in Liverpool, UK. And I've subscribed to that mantra with my team because, quite honestly, I can't do what I do without them.
And I want to share, go back up for 1 second, if we can, or if not, we just leave it up to it. So one of the things, this I think will bring some value in a serious way, is that I love this philosophy, you'll never walk alone. And it kind of makes me think of, just because you're the most stressed as the practice owner, remember your team has stress too. And I think sometimes dentists go through their day thinking, I'm the only one stressed, but they don't realize someone's yelling about money at the front desk. Someone's telling the dental assistant they don't want x-rays. Someone's telling the dental hygienist, why do I have to be probing? So maybe you could just talk a little bit. I know you inspire your team to get out there and do this, but is it something you had to kind of grow as a leader to say, hey, I'm not the only one who's experiencing stress and anxiety?
I think there's a couple things that I do in the practice that really aligns me with my team. One is a morning huddle, which we're going to talk about. And during that huddle, I always end it every day with, again, things we're going to talk about, motivators and things, but really also just philosophically to say to them, take care of each other today.
Yeah.
Like, team first.
Yeah.
We feel very strongly about that in the office. It is team first. And that's hard because patients are going to want you to put them first. And that means your team has to be responsible for the words that come out of their mouth and the actions they have. But at the end of the day, if you're there and you're supporting your team and you're putting team first, if they have stressful days, which, listen, my team had a wild stressful day Wednesday.
Yeah.
A lot of people coming through, patients giving a hard time, phones weren't working 100%, we're making voice over internet change, all sorts of little things, right? The management of the practice, the facilities, just very stressful. At the end of the day, my 3 admin team members and my associate, Dr. Carrot, caught the picture. They gave each other a team hug.
That's awesome. I mean, you have to.
You have to.
One of the things I think about practice ownership that's just important to point out, I know I use the circus example, is you have to expect unexpected drop nachos. You have to go in there thinking, here's my day, and then these things are going to happen I'm not thinking about, and I don't know what they're going to look like from phones being down.
Yeah.
So really think that's a great point. I'll let you keep going.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Of course, whatever. Reject anytime. All right, the team. First and foremost, number one priority, the team. That's my team. This is back in 2010. It was our 10-year anniversary of me owning the practice, and it was in the height of COVID. So we had a socially distanced masked luau. We do try and do things together as a team. I think it's part of our philosophy. You have to want to be around each other. That is part of it. And so we're going to talk about it. So first and foremost, I bought an existing practice. I bought a fee-for-service practice. I'm very upfront about that. So what I dealt with when I bought it was the practice transition. And so part of deciding on the practice and where I wanted to be was picking where I wanted to live. And this was advice that my father gave me. If you're going to do dentistry for a long time, which typically we're going to be, if you're going to buy a practice, you have to have legs, in your community. And if you want to grow fee for service, you really have to be present. It's usually a long game. So pick where you want to live, make your life a little bit easier. If you're going to invest in this place, try and make it a little bit more convenient. Did you purchase a fee-for-service practice like I did? Are the numbers working? What are you trying to achieve when you buy this practice, when you go fee-for-service? If you do it the way that I did it, which you buy an existing practice, do you need to start reinventing things? What do the numbers look like? Is the team happy? Are patients coming back without concern? Why would you buy something and start to reinvent it it's important, I think, initially during transitions, that you're not looking to make big changes because it makes people uncomfortable. People don't
I'm
like
someone who,
change.
I'll just interject, I'm someone
Yeah.
who sells practices. So here's my, just Paul tips. If it's not illegal, if it's not immoral, if it's not unethical, if it's not unsafe, don't change it for 6 months.
Yeah,
Because too often, whether you hate the carpet, the patient knows the carpet. The front desk team, whether you hate they have a trinket at the front desk, that's their trinket. Then after you develop a relationship with them and you want to make adjustments and enhancements, that's the time.
yeah,
But both patients and team. I want to ask you a quick question because it goes with, do you know the style of dentistry
Yeah.
practice? I think of you as the Todd I met in 2017, but now I'm thinking you bought this practice in 2010 as a
Yep.
youngest dentist.
Yep.
Were you able to replicate most of the dentistry that the dentist was doing? Because that I get asked, was this dentist doing 10 full mouth rehabs a year and you couldn't do any, or were you able to take that over?
I was close. I will say, I think it helped because the type of dentistry I was already doing 5 years out, after 5 years after my residency, was close-ish to his,
Yeah.
25 years experience at that point, right? But I would tell, the short answer is no.
Yeah.
I was not doing the exact same level of care that he was doing when I came on. He was a much more seasoned dentist,
Yeah.
right? But I recognize, and that's gonna be part of what we talk about, the areas I need to improve in.
Right.
I went and got help,
Yeah.
right? So I could keep that fee for service style, profitable in my practice because it does depend on being able to do some
So
dentistry.
great. So when you say, so it matters, everyone, what you do inside and outside the operatory. So it's important to have leadership skills. It's important to have communication skills, but you also want to look at this practice and say, can I deliver the clinical skills in a way that fits? It doesn't have to be the exact same way.
And am
but-
I a similar personality, right?
Yeah.
People get used to a certain doctor and his vibe. I'm wildly different from Bob Kravitz, who I got my practice from, but we still had enough in common from our approach
Yeah.
that it wasn't so off-putting for patients. If you're not a talker like I am, like Paul is, it's harder to run fee for
Yeah.
service. You have to be developing relationships with patients. You have to be ingratiating yourself with them. You have to be able to have very honest and sort of normal,
Yeah.
not weird conversations. And that's part of fee for service. There's no question. And so I think it's personality driven. I think it's an important part of it. I think it's a little bit of it is know thyself.
Right.
Not everyone needs to practice fee for service. And by the way, and I've talked about this in lectures, just because I'm fee for service doesn't mean I make more money
Right.
than PPO dentists.
We just met Dr. Travis Campbell, who probably makes,
He does
way
bigger
more money.
numbers than I do.
and he thinks what you do is, it's just like the city and the suburbs. I don't know what happens in the suburbs, but maybe you people like it. And you guys don't want to come to the city and live there. We do. So I think it's a really good point of the know thyself and give yourself a chance to know thyself.
Yeah,
You probably didn't know yourself 1 year after your AGD.
no.
You went and did different practice cells. Thanks
And
so much.
again, it's going to continue to change. So here's my team, and this is our 11th year. We went down to Clearwater. COVID settled down a little bit. We took the Strupp and Brum course together. This was to celebrate our anniversary, when we could celebrate a little more. I mean, this is the kind of thing. I didn't take my team away for 10 years. This is my 11th year. I'm finally taking my team away in a position to do that, where it's not going to affect us in a negative way, or we're in a positive place where it benefits everyone for us to go away together because we're more aligned. And then we continue to build those relationships, right? So very fortunate to get away with my team last year. And some of these team members aren't even on my team anymore, quite honestly. And so that's the other irony of it, is that these iterations are going to change, but the philosophy of your practice ultimately is what guides you. So we talked about the practice transition, which was my story. Then the next thing that you have to do, in my opinion, is surround yourself with great people who you actually like and remove the ones who aren't great people who you really don't like, right? And so the reality is, for many years, I worked in my office with employees because I didn't want to make big changes, who I wasn't 100% aligned with, where I was anxious about coming to the office, where I was concerned about what their behavior was going to be for that day. And it was anxiety laden for me. These days, I won't allow for that. And if someone is not aligned with me, I move on. It's challenging. It comes with its own set of problems. But the reality is, I only want to work with people I like. And I think it feels that way over time because your patients will be able to tell it trickles down. Your team members are having conversations in the operatory without you there. And if you're not aligned with them, they're not going to be as supportive as you think they are. They're going to actually try and ingratiate themselves with patients. That's just basic psychology. They're going to want to be supportive to that patient. And they're actually not going to put your team philosophy first necessarily. So you need to be aligned. You need to get along. You need to know that you take care of each other and that you care about each other. Do not suffer in your own practice. It destroys motivation to succeed, in my opinion. And you must make your practice a safe space both for you You don't want to forget about yourself and your employees, okay? Because typically those low-hanging fruit employees, the ones that you don't get along with, other employees aren't getting along with either, and they're being made miserable by this 1 or 2 employees in your practice, and you're better off, honestly, getting rid of them and your team working a little harder until you find someone who's more aligned. Here's our team in December. We went to Rittenhouse Grill, which is a beautiful restaurant here in Center City, Philly, and we ate fat steaks and all the stuff people want. And we just enjoy each other, and we're very fortunate. And so we like to celebrate, and we like to show off a little bit because we work very hard at it. And it's important to celebrate the wins. Don't be cheap. They're worth it, but set expectations. So good team members are expensive. Good dentists are expensive. Good hairstylists are expensive. Nice hotels are expensive. Nicer cars are expensive. This is all normal stuff, right? You typically pay for what you get. I'm a big proponent of that philosophy. I always want to provide a lot of value in my practice, but the reality of it is you can't be cheap, and that starts with your team. And so if you want good team members, you need to pay for them. But with that comes the expectation that if you're going to get a premium salary, then I have certain expectations with that salary, right? That you're going to be here, you're going to be on time, you're going to be prepared, you're going to be positive, we're going to be aligned philosophically, you're going to be supporting me at all times. You know, because you want to make sure you're investing in the right people. If you're doing continuing education like we're doing it at my practice, you're bringing these people with you to go do continuing education, to travel with them, to bring in consultants. And if you're not investing in the correct people, it's a little bit of a waste, to be honest with you. I think it's always a benefit, certainly for you and your other team members, but you want it to be as fruitful as possible. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people. Do they come back and use what they've learned? If we're doing continuing education, are they implementing it? That could be the hygienist, that could be the assistant, that could be the admin team with their verbal skills. But the expectation is we're not just doing continuing education to satisfy requirements. We're doing it so we can bring back these skill sets and turn our practice in a different direction or move it in a different direction. It all starts with these really small baby steps that compound over time, multifactorial. Everything we do has multiple factors. And at the end of the day, when you hire team members, is there a desire for professional growth? Are they going to be stagnant? Do they want to invest in it with you? Are they motivated? These are things that are important, right? You have to kind of glean from them. Are you willing to grow? I tell my team, there are no glass ceilings in my office. You can earn whatever you want to earn, but the numbers have to show it, right? You have to show me that you're having less cancellations, that you're developing deeper relationships, that you're seeing more production. That's all normal stuff. And that doesn't come because we're selling more. That comes because we're educating more, because we have deeper relationships with patients, because they value what we do and they see the results from it. You gotta invest in yourself. I tell patients, if you want to look a certain way, if you want to feel a certain way, if you want to act a certain way, you are going to have to invest in yourself. But we at the back end, front end, need to deliver, right? And that's it. We have to provide value. So you want to make sure your team's growing with you. So here's the room at Strupp and Brum. It's probably like, I don't know, 300 people in a room. It's a fabulous course. There's a ton of value. The Grand Wyndham is a lovely hotel right on the water. I would highly, highly recommend the Strupp and Brum course. And then, you know, basic stuff, right? Like the everyday ins and outs, the stuff that isn't just philosophical and a sort of a harder concept, but the actual tangible things, right? Morning huddle, monthly meetings, team communication, bringing in management consultants, investing in continuing education, traveling with your team together, because listen, a lot of times your team hasn't traveled. That's the other thing. They haven't gone places or done stuff. You have an opportunity as a leader, as a businessman, as an employer, to expose your team to new things, to new stuff, to new restaurants, arts and culture, cities, philosophies and practices and teams and all the other people to be around. That's pretty exciting when you get to see it through your team members' eyes, I will tell you. And it feels very satisfying as an owner to give them these types of benefits, right? Where we're not just making them better employees, we're making them better people. That's something that I want my legacy to be that. It's not for everybody, but for me, I want them to leave my employment feeling that they've grown as individuals. I've had actual team members leave me because they felt so confident that they can go pursue other career paths. Great for them, crummy for me, but at the same time, there's something satisfying about that. So listen, I think at the end of the day, it always pays dividends, and the new team members who come along are usually always more extraordinary than the next. And then know your numbers and run your practice by them. I think it's important to understand that to be a successful business, you have to understand what that business does, what it means, what's your overhead like, what your salaries are like. So you do have to run a business. It is part of it. And that was a big part of me learning the business when I was a new owner, was what do the numbers mean? And it's still not easy, but if there's consistency with your numbers, it's easier for you to understand it. So Morning Huddle Motivators, Gary Cady, you can log on to Gary Cady, K-A-D-I, and he has motivators that you can get delivered to your mailbox every day. This is an example of one that we would read in the morning. This is the website for Gary Cady. It's very straightforward. I've actually never done a lot of his work, but I like his style, I will say, and this is a nice little benefit that he offers for dentists. These are our numbers charts for our monthly meetings. So these are trend indicators. This is from the Pride system. Now Pride is associated with Spear. They were bought by Spear many years ago, but these are the old school Xerox copies that I fill out every month with my team. After we plug in numbers into Dentrix, we run reports through Dentrix, and we get these numbers, and we have daily, monthly, and yearly goals. And because of that, we do quarterly bonuses, and we have monthly meetings where on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can see that on the refrigerator, we keep a list, and we go over our morning huddle every month. We share our numbers every month so that the team understands what the numbers are doing and what that means for them. Yes, that means that they want some skin in the game. Well, in my opinion, if you're running fee for service and you want to be taken care of by a high next level team, have them have some ownership in the practice. I'm not talking about huge percentages, but we're talking about enough that they feel connected. They feel when we win as a team. I don't need to put all the money in my own pocket, quite honestly, nor do I think we should. That's just a personal philosophy. And so if we have more coming through and the numbers show it, then everybody wins. And then we have other stuff that we talk about, handoffs and scheduling and medical history updates and OJ in the fridge and, random stuff that is just important for us as a team to make sure that we're communicating. That's really what we're talking about here. People always like to look at numbers. I decided to put some together. This is not one way or the other. People do bigger numbers. They do smaller numbers than me. It's not a competition. But what I want people to understand is it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And so my first full year in practice ownership, we might have done 1.4. By the end of 2021, we might have done 1.8. That's a 31% change in 10 years. But then between my 11th and 12th year, we had an 18% change. We had a huge uptick. And my point is that it's hitting now more. People are accepting treatment more. They come in understanding our philosophy more. And it's taken this amount of time to get patients and team members aligned to see this kind of more exponential growth now in the more mid-range of my career, right? I'm not in the early first stages of ownership anymore. I'm not in the last 10 years of my ownership phase. I'm not in the first 10, I'm not in the last 10. I'm right now in the middle 20 or 15. And this can be wildly profitable if you're moving your practice in the correct direction. In 2011, we had 8 employees with 181 doctor days. And this is the big takeaway message from these numbers. But in 2022, we have 14 employees, but only 169 doctor days. I personally have worked 1 day less since I bought the practice every year. It's been some shtick that I have in my head. Every year I try and work 1 day less and try and make the same, if not a little bit more money. That means that the practice is doing well. There's a lot more equity and my quality of life is going up. And that to me is very important. I'm not doing this without goals in mind. We went from 5 to 6 operatories. We went from 64 to 80 hygiene hours per week. And so we have 3 hygienists on Tuesdays and Wednesdays now. And we went from 1 to 1.5 doctors scheduled because I have associates with me Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're only open 4 days. That's an extra, half day a week, a day a week. So we have 1.5 doctors scheduled now for the week, as opposed to just me as a single doctor. We've seen a 56% increase in production, which is collections for us. We're 100% collections over the past 12 years. Some people have more extraordinary go quicker because they do a ton of marketing and they have a ton of new patients coming through. Our new patient average might be between 10 to 15 new patients a month, but they're high value, they're high quality, they're coming back 3 or 4 times a year. They are consistent. And so it's very important, in my opinion, to bring in good patients. And that starts with philosophy, of course. So we've seen this natural growth over time. Here's my team using Nacho headquarters here to do continuing education. Early last year, in February or March of last year, I brought on a consultant from Paragon, Linda Merrick, who's fabulous. She's a management consultant. And we met and we reviewed numbers and we reviewed ways that we can tweak our team. And even though we're showing big numbers and we're increasing, I'm still being proactive. Where can we eke out additional things? Where can we provide more value? Where can we learn a little bit more? So ultimately, you have to develop a fee-for-service team that reflects a fee-for-service practice. You can't put in HMO team members into a fee-for-service practice. It really does not work from what I can tell with my practice so far. So that's just something to think about as you push forward. Be proud of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. That's the style of my practice. I walk around with us feeling pride. We should. I think what we do is as good as it can be done with the experience that we have and the facility that we have and the nature of what we do. Be proud of it, but do it with humility, do it with some modesty, do it with appreciation with patients. If they're going to pay a premium fee, if they're going to come in and spend time with us, if they're going to commit to 2 hours for a new patient experience, if they're going to commit to having to spend a half an hour on new patient forms, if they're going to commit to come into the practice where we don't participate directly with their insurance and not get reimbursed as much, then I think it's in our best interest to do it with humility, modesty, and appreciation. Just the philosophy of treatment. These are recent reviews. They're, of course, very positive. We're very excited to hear people talk about things like this dentistry team is the best I've ever been to. Kind, compassionate, and very skilled. They take a conservative approach. They become our family dentists. I was served by a new hygienist and a new dentist, and both were excellent, right? These are just people who come to me now, know that under the umbrella of the TAF team of our office, no matter who takes care of them, they will be well taken care of. I mean, that's very satisfying for me. Staff are outstanding at this office. Everyone is friendly and helpful. My new hygienist was thorough, focused, best experience that Dr. Hood asked for, expert, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's very fortunate. Now, listen, we also get the other things, right? 2 stars from a patient who's been with me for 15 years. Accustomed to salt first on my tongue before I take x-rays. I loved how clean they felt, was accustomed to feeling cleaning instruments go deeper. You know, this is new relationships. I always talk to patients, if you need something specific from us, please emote, please be direct, please advocate for yourself. It's really important patients feel comfortable that they can speak up and that they're going to be listened to. Those are skill sets, active listening, things that we train in our office, right? You know, what's another one? Maria, my new dental assistant, was friendly and competent. Also met a new doctor who was nice. However, only saw her for a short time. She's not Todd, but who is? Well, that's really sweet of the patient, but at the end of the day, you know, you can't meet everyone's expectations. You can only do the best you possibly can. This is our team down in Clearwater, Scup and Brum. Again, just showing that we do things together. We spend time together because I actually enjoy their company, but also because it's important that you just become aligned as a team, and doing things outside the office actually perpetuates that. Second big factor is continue to learn. You have to learn, right? That's my son circled there, Ozzy, great kid. Baseball first year, he's continuing to learn. His coaches did an incredible job. Always be learning. Verbal skills are important. No one does that better than Paul, right? But these are just some of the places that I've invested in over the past 12 years as an owner, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm sure, so we could get our verbal skills down, right? So we could learn the things they don't teach us in dental school to be able to run a fee-for-service practice, because you have to know that words matter, right? We're in the hospitality business, right? We're a service-driven business. How is your customer service? How would you feel if you were being spoken to the way your team speaks to patients? How would you feel if you were in the chair being treated by your assistant or her hygienist? If you sat down, right, and had the experience that your patients are having, how would it feel to you? Is everyone on the same page in the practice? Do you all say the same things, right? Do you have the same attitudes toward care? That's a verbal skill, right? That's training. That's important. And at the end of the day, it's always that famous conversation of benefits versus insurance. It's just an example of having the right conversations with your patients. If your team's using the word insurance and you're using the word benefit, patients are going to be confused, right? The key is non-confusion, is to get everyone aligned, right? And so you have to practice. That's what meetings are for. That's what training is for. And so we do all those things. It takes effort. There's no question. It's absolutely exhausting. Will it pay dividends? That is my absolute expectation. Nachos on demand, all this stuff is great. I'm a huge fan. I wouldn't be lecturing with Paul if I didn't believe in what he was doing. And so the reality is we need these skill sets. These are things we do not learn in school. They can come natural to certain people. Others, it's more challenging. Let us help you. Let us help you figure out how to take your dentistry to the next level. Do the things that you want to do, because you'll actually understand how to speak to patients and how to get cases sold because of the work that you've put in to doing all the due diligence and all the clinical skills, and now be able to sell it, right? Be able to talk to patients. We can help you with that. Clinical skills, right? Clinical skills are wildly important. You can talk a big game and you can sell it, right? You learn everything, you get the verbal skills down, but then you got to do it. You have to perform. If you're not interested in performing, if you don't think you can sit there for a day and prep an arch and do the temps and manage the impression and not be exhausted or not be worn out or not have the patient be miserable, because it can be a miserable process. These are usually patients that are awake. We don't do sedation in my practice. It is a process. It's very challenging. And so you need to do the high-level clinical training. And by the way, have your team brag about it. Dr. Fleischman just went out to Seattle. He goes to an institute. He makes incredible investments in making sure he brings the best technology and techniques for what we know now in dentistry, right? We don't sit on our laurels about work that was done 30 or 40 years ago as gold standards. Those standards may be the same or they may change. Do you understand those questions that patients are going to ask you? Are you doing evidence-driven dentistry? That's what I would ask yourself, right? Can you do the dentistry? Is it predictable in your hands? Because you don't want to be doing these giant cases, charging big figures, and then having to redo them because you're not going to charge a patient again because you couldn't get it to work, because you don't understand the etiology, because you don't understand how to manage the occlusion or the functionality or the prep design, right? So you have to bring in the clinical skills to back up the verbal skills. Will it be a comfortable experience for a patient? Is this going to build up or potentially break down your reputation? Here in Philadelphia, in Center City, near Rittenhouse Square, where I practice, it's practically a small town. I know it seems wild to people out there in the 6th biggest city in the country, but my neighborhood is very small. I live and work, and my children go to school within like 5 or 10 minute walk of everything. So if I have a case walking around town that looks crummy or patients aren't happy with, that's my reputation on the line. That will absolutely affect you over time. Every patient counts, every patient matters. That can be very challenging. It's not for everybody. I know plenty of doctors, friends of mine, who practice an hour away, who practice 45 minutes away, who practice half an hour away, outside the city, in a suburb, in a city, they live in the suburbs because they don't want their two worlds to collide. I actually did, because I love that relationship building. I think I can back up what I do enough that despite the fact that I might run into complications, my patients know I have their best interest in mind. That's a benefit to my community, but you have to be careful. When you do these kind of clinical things, once in a while you get to show off. And so in this national ITI case competition, myself and my specialist, Phil Fava, who's an incredible periodontist, submitted this case, and I took second place, which is a national vote-getting competition. And we took a lot of pride with that. And you don't think I'm going to tell patients about that? I mean, that's wild. Of course, I'm telling patients about that because I want them to know that I'm doing high-level care. And then, of course, psychological skills, right? You can talk about it all you want. I want to bring up my timer again. You can talk about it all you want, but you have to know how to speak to patients. You have to understand what's going on in their minds. A lot of their shtick, a lot of their anxieties are not our issue. It's not because they have a problem with us. Patients have a lot of their own things going on. Are you recognizing those things in your new patient experience? Are you talking to your patients about their anxieties? Are you managing their expectations? Are you making sure they advocate for themselves and so your team can listen? Are they being forthright with what they need from you? If you care, if you want to develop that kind of relationship, then ask them, right? So plant seeds about treatment needs. Talk to patients about treatment recommendations ahead of time so that you're not, giving them ultimatums. Do keynote presentations, and facially generated treatment planning, which is Spear's first workshop that they recommend, that I highly recommend for dentists of any caliber, really, but certainly after a couple years out, facially generated treatment planning is an intro into comprehensive dentistry, right? You learn some basic photography, you learn how to approach patient comprehensively, but you also learn how to put photos together in a keynote presentation on your laptop and educate patients about dentistry, right? Because you need to educate patients about dentistry. You need to tell them what the expectations are for these kind of big cases because you're going to be married to them. There's a lot of psychology in that. And so you have to decide, is this a patient I want to be married to? Do we have a nice relationship? If things go sideways, are we still going to be friends, right? You don't have to do treatment on every patient. And I love the fact that I'm a GP, because at the end of the day, if a patient comes to me and I'm not aligned, or I think they're going to be challenging, I can punt things too. I don't need to make my life difficult anymore. And so you can be very careful about that. With patients, we do a lot of tone matching. That's an MGE concept down in Florida, down in Clearwater, tone meeting. If a patient's mad, I'm mad too, Mrs. Smith. I'm anxious. I'm feeling anxious too. I can understand that. Here's how I'm going to help you, right? There's all sorts of ways to flip these scripts around, but acknowledging how patients feel can go extremely far in keeping them comfortable. And yes, when they're lying back and their mouth is agape and they're in this incredibly vulnerable position, whether we want to play dime store psychologist or not, we're going to. And so you might as well be prepared for the conversations and learn how to lead them. Learn how to control those conversations instead of the patient controlling them for you. Because again, like your team, patients want to be led. You are a professional. You need to act like it. And that was a tough lesson for me early on. I'm much better now, 18 years into my career, than I was 3 or 4 years into my career, being confident in my approach with patients. That came with verbal, clinical, and psychological skills. So match their tone, and most importantly, with anything you do, like Paul already talked about today, set expectations. This restoration I expect to last between 4 and 10 years. Bop, bop, bop. Make your own numbers up. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. It can be small, it can be large, but set the expectation, because your patients will absolutely remember it. And then make a note of it in the chart, because then you can go back to it 5 years from now and go, remember, Mrs. Smith, we talked about it. Not to be in their face, but just to remind them that you had this conversation, you were paying attention. Here's the Coy Center again, where you learn great clinical skills. And lastly, invest in relationships, right? I mean, at the end of the day, people don't want to typically go to the dentist. And so to get them to come back, you have to have a relationship with them, right? I got Paul to come back. I have a relationship with him, right? He walked back in the room. So here we are at my
My favorite place.
at Elvez, at my admin team member Caitlin's 30th birthday. This is me investing in my relationship with my team. It pays incredible dividends. Go back to the first slide with your team. Don't be cheap. If you spend $1,000 to take your 14-member team out for dinner and have them have a couple of drinks and have a really high quality food and high quality service, what you're doing is setting expectation that this is the kind of thing we want to also provide where we work, right? I'm taking you to the same level of place that is a reflection of our practice too. High end, high service, high quality, right? You have to stay aligned, right? These are things that you don't think they matter, but your team is paying attention. So relationship-based dentistry, build the relationships. Make sure in your schedule you have time for them. Find something to connect with your patients. Be honest and straightforward. Don't seem like you're trying to get something past somebody. Just tell them how it is. And if you don't know, guess what? Tell them I don't know. And that's okay too. Be vulnerable. They will appreciate it. Just be honest and straightforward. I know it seems crazy. Make phone calls. The one thing that my predecessor didn't do, the one thing that he didn't do to build relationships in his practice for some odd reason, is he didn't call patients the next day that he gave a needle to. I call anyone I give a needle to, or my hygienist give a needle to, or my associates give a needle to the next day. It's just great practice building. Initially, they were like, I have to call and be like, hey, Mrs. Jones, it's Todd Fleischman, your dentist. Because they're whacked out by the fact that someone would call them, right? Now I go, it's Todd Fleischman, your dentist. They go, yeah, we know Todd. We know it's you. This is relationship building. They know you care. They want to spend money with people they know who care. It's as simple as that. It's not more complicated. Provide value. The value will be in the relationship. So what are we doing differently in my practice? Well, the new patient experience is different from the very beginning. The sign on the door says, dentistry, it's all about you, right? When they come in, they're coming in for a full hour with me and my assistant, and they're coming in for a full hour with the hygienist in the same appointment. They're committing 2 hours to me. That's already wildly different. Something's different about the experience before they even walk in the door. They know to expect that. It feels different from the beginning. They leave with new expectations. It's almost on a daily basis. I sit my patient up from a new patient experience, which is something that Paul and I are going to talk about sharing with this community. And they say to us, I've never had an exam like that. I've never seen something so comprehensive. After that, I can pretty much charge them anything I want to charge them pushing forward, and they're not going anywhere else because they know it's going to be different. The value is different. It's not the same experience. You have to differentiate yourself. We can teach you how to do that, right? This is my new patient form. This is not anything extraordinary. I had an assistant draw this up for me many years ago, and we still write it down because that's how it works for me. Because after we write it all down, I go back and I fill it all in the computer because that's what works for me. It makes sure that I'm giving patients high quality service and I'm paying attention to who they are coming into the practice. And so we go through all of this as part of their new patient experience. It's very comprehensive. It's from Spear, it's from Kois. It's like a summary of all the CE I've done and put it into a package that works for me. Right. And so that's what I do is I can take all the CE and I can decide how does it work in my hands and use as evidence-driven continuing education to develop my own personal practice, which is what we've done. And then, listen, it's philosophy, right? It's team. If you give patients t-shirts, they will wear them, especially if they're cool and they're high quality, because it reflects the thing that you're doing in your practice, right? And then they want to wear them. And they wear them in the office as soon as they get
One
them.
thing I want to say, I want to interject with something, because it's
Yeah.
important, and we might have look at the shirt I got underneath it is from Rocky 3, Mr. T versus Rocky. So we'll have a sequel, and we might not get through all of your stuff, but I want to pause on this because you said something at Alves that reminded me of this. So I take the residents out to dinner, and I tell them that I treat special people special in my practice, in my life. So you treat your team special because they're special to you. And at the end of the year, they gave me a gift, and on it was treat special people special. And it just reminds me of this. I feel special when I wear this. It's not about advertising for you. You
Right.
give this to special people. What's the way it makes them feel? What have they said to you? Are they proud to wear it?
Yeah, they're part of a club, right? Like it's
Yeah.
a thing, right? I've had patients come to me because on the right-hand side is my friend and my patient, and he comes to the same pool that I go to when they're here in the city, and randomly he's wearing it. When I'm wearing it because I want to show off, and he's wearing it because he wants to show off. He's got pride in the fact that he's my patient and he wants to tell people about it.
So what's
right?
cool is, and this cuts off any practice style, Todd, and we've done it too at our office, has made it that our patients want to wear something that has your dental office on it, is proud to wear it. And this was just a happy accident, right? You didn't
Total
plan this
coincidence, no.
outfit with either of these people.
Total coincidence.
So let's just do this for a second, try this, because I want to get for questions. Stop share for a second. I want to get to one of these questions. What we're going to do at this point is answer a couple of the questions here.
Need a haircut.
You look great.
Thank you.
When you get a new hire, this is from the audience, when you get a new hire, how long do you train them before they're ready to join your team for the long term and grow alongside?
Yeah, what a very good question. So I would do things differently now because I've been learning and I'm always fluid. If I was hiring an associate now, I would not allow that associate to see a patient until they shadow me for a month.
I agree.
And I didn't, it just wasn't, because they'll see how you practice, they see how you speak to patients, they see how you speak to your team. They should be doing nothing, in my opinion, an associate in your practice for a month. Pay them, they're per diem, suck it up, right? It's part of the process, because then when they sit down with patients, they're gonna be aligned with you. And so I think there's a ton of value in that.
I actually think it's brilliant. And we have a new Nacho team member who's excited to do stuff. I said, I want you to taste test each department. I want you to find out what everyone does. There's so much value in then seeing how the front desk team
Yeah.
does things, even though they're never going to have to ask for money directly. So I think that's incredibly
We
smart.
cross-train a lot of
Because-
people. We cross-train too.
Because there's never, let's say someone's going to work here as an associate for 36 months. That first month is so magical, and
Yeah.
we're used to our own stuff.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to the new person to just be thrown in and say, okay, now start doing these fillings. And I know we have this, and I actually made me think different about this, because we sometimes have about a week like this, but it should really be a month,
Mhm.
because it gives them a chance to learn without pressure. It's like the GPR of private practice,
Totally.
right? It's like the saying, and then you have the opportunity as the practice owner to say, come in here, I want to watch me insert this,
Mhm.
come in here, I
And
want to
you're
share with you how this works.
And you're introducing to the patients and you're introducing to the team. I mean, there's just so many benefits. I'd say from an employee standpoint, like my newest EFTA, Haley, who's incredible. She probably shadowed for 3 months, just doing like a basic
Right.
assisting stuff before she could sit, right? I want her to see and understand how we did stuff before
Yeah.
she sat and did stuff.
It's so key, because a lot of times we do it ourselves. Many people aren't gonna say, I don't feel confident to do that. It makes you feel shame, it makes you
Yeah.
embarrassed. So then they try something, they don't do it your way, but it's really your fault, your responsibility for not being able to
100%.
do it.
No,
And that's why I have this Ted Lasso belief thing up there, because I think it's such a good message for what we do. So this concludes our CE. My team in the chat It's going to share how you get live CE. We're going to stay for a brief after party before hopefully we get lunch, but midday after party. But you can get live in-person CE for watching on Zoom. Check with your state regulations by going into the chat and getting this now. The CE will conclude in 2 minutes when I ask Todd one more question. So it's online. It's online with what you asked there. But go back to that associate question. Let's just talk just about the associate. You're a fee-for-service office. You now have 2 associates. What should a fee-for-service dentist be thinking, or someone who's taking over a fee-for-service office about kind of being the new face, the new person in front of these patients?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging, right? And so,
one thing that I encourage my team to do is, and it could be an associate, is try to mention something that doesn't have anything to do with their teeth to get started, just so that they kind of, you're leading with your person self first.
so the way it goes, like when they walk into a hygiene and they haven't met a patient yet, they always say to this patient, tell me something about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like meeting, it's like doing the new patient experience, like in a summarized version, right?
Yeah.
So they start by ingratiating themselves by asking the patient about themselves so that the patient can share, which some people want to and other people don't, right? And if you don't feel like they're picking up on it, then I have my associate say, well, here's a little bit about me. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Quick 1 minute elevator pitch about their CV.
It
you
leads
know?
with your person self and is key. And I think that it's one of the things as new associates, the reason why you're so slow in private practice is because every patient is a new patient to you. And that would horrify and scare a regular practice owner. I said, hey, Todd, next Tuesday,
So true.
you have restorative, everybody's new.
Right.
That would be the most stressful day of
No,
your
it's
of
not
your
pleasant.
year. So show yourself empathy and grace, but also invest in yourself in learning systems, getting your clinical stuff down so you don't have to think about it as much. And that's why Todd has invested in himself. I mean, conservatively, how much have you invested in your CE experience over the past 10 years?
I don't even know. That slide that I showed, it's worth hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of dollars.
But you've spent between flights and hotel and airfare and costs over $100,000.
Plus
So
time away from my family, from my
Yeah.
office, you know, it's all of that. But listen, our business is one that there's a reason why they force you to do continuing education every year. And the fact is people try and do as minimal amount as possible. But the reality of it is you need to invest in yourself. You need to constantly be growing and changing. A lot of people do it the same way. Listen, I'm not saying at 60, I'm going to be as hustle as I am now, but this is the phase we're in.
yeah,
So that
Sure.
our audience typically with nachos and baby age dentists or middle aged dentists are going to be people who are in the hustle phase like we are right now.
and sometimes these small things can transform your life in the most magical ways. So Todd, this was awesome. Thanks. This concludes our CE, but we're going to spend 3 minutes of doing this. So this is after the CE party, we can promote something. So one thing that Dr. Todd and I did recently was we put together a 2-day event with Dr. Travis Campbell on PPO dentistry, fee-for-service dentistry, patient communication. You had your team there, and we recorded this, and you can purchase these recordings as a training tool to learn. So you were there with Dr. Travis
Yeah.
Campbell.
Great guy.
What would people get out of buying those recordings and having their team themselves watch them from communication, fee-for-service dentistry, and what Travis did?
There's a lot of information in those 2 days, man. I mean, I regretted actually not forcing my team to stay
Yeah.
the rest of Friday and into Saturday, because fee for service or not, Travis was giving everybody in the audience the skills to get patients paid and to make their lives like a ton easier.
Yeah, and
And
they
it was basic too. It was just like getting ducks in a row, understanding that like you need to have these things checked off so that you can manage the insurance sort of like maze and confusion.
And what we do is, and it's kind of like he teaches you, everyone has out how to bond in a crown. They have all their stuff, but then they go to the business aspect and it's a jumbled up mess. And if they don't send their things, and you even said years ago, I remember when we first met, if a crown is $1,500, the patient wants their $300 from the insurance.
100%.
And it's our job to facilitate it.
Yeah.
You know, whether you bill or don't bill, whether you give them the claim or don't claim, but patients, they have the relationship with you. So that always struck me that even if you're fee for service, insurance is a big part of your practice, right?
No, we still do all the submission. I mean, someday is the move when you're like, listen, I don't even submit it.
Yeah.
Sorry, here's your form. Good luck, right? That would be the ideal way, which listen, someday could easily go that direction, right? But the reality is we are service driven,
Right.
service driven. And if you're going to be service driven, you better understand how to submit the benefit for that
Yeah.
patient, right? And how to speak to them about it correctly and how to maximize its potential. because fee for service or not, people pay into these plans and they're gonna give you the premium because they like you, they like your
Right.
team, but they want their money.
They want the rebate. We do it
They
as
want
well.
their coupon. It's
Um,
understandable.
So if you would like to get these recordings to watch.
Plus then you get to watch us.
Yeah, text recordings. I was pretty funny doing it.
You were
My
very
wife
funny.
said, text recordings to
I had a pseudo.
215-543-6454 or reach out to us at dentalnachos.com or see at dentalnachos.com. One thing that Todd and I did not have is we didn't have recordings like this. So as a new practice owner or as a seasoned practice owner, you can watch this anytime. And if you've had turnover in your office for good reasons, challenging reasons, cry inside reasons, you can onboard a new team member by saying, hey, watch this thing to orient yourself.
It's a really good philosophy, I have to tell you. I think it can be inspiring. That's our job here at Nachos. We want to lead toward positive results, right? And so I think if you watch these things together, especially with your team,
Yeah.
I agree that you're gonna feel that. which
Make it
is-
like a team meeting thing. So